question says there is a $1 per unit tax, and it's asking which one affects the price the most. So if there's a tax, there's an increase in marginal cost, which means supply curve will shift up. And the question is asking which one increases price the most. And all the choices have something to do with elasticity of both demand and supply. So we do need to know the relationship between the elasticity and the change in price. So one trick you need, the trick is not technically correct, but it's very helpful, is to remember the steeper curves are more inelastic curves. So the vertical one is perfectly inelastic. So the steeper, the more inelastic the curve is, and the flatter, the more elastic it is. So if it's horizontal, then it's perfectly elastic. So the relatively flatter ones are more elastic. So again, technically, it's not correct, but it's very useful in solving these types of questions. So first, let's compare the demand. So suppose we have Q and P, we have a upward shift of our supply curve. Then we compare two cases. One is a very inelastic demand, which, as I said, is a relatively vertical one. So let's say this. Then the price increase from here to here, that's the increase. And we compare it with the more elastic one, which is kind of flat. We start at the same point, and then we increase by the same amount, so we end up here. So the price only changed from here to here. So from the diagram, obviously, the more inelastic demand is, the more change in P there is. So let's use another color. So more inelastic the demand implies a larger change in price. So we do the same thing for supply. So we need to fix a demand curve. Let's first deal with the inelastic supply, which is something like this. So we start from here, and a increase up by, say, this is 1 unit. Then we would increase it until here, and our resulting price change is this. So this is our increase in price. This drawing is not that great. Let's draw parallel lines. And if it's relatively flatter, let's draw the same thing again. So we start with the same point, we increase until the same point. So this is, again, a 1 unit increase until this point. And if we draw a parallel shift, then we end up here. So comparing these price change, it seems the flatter supply curve is better. So the conclusion is the more elastic supply leads to a larger change in price. So from the question, which one is more inelastic, a demand elasticity of 0.5 is the more elastic one, the more inelastic one, and the supply elasticity of 1.5 is the more elastic one, so the answer is B.